From 1960 to 2005, Sheikh Syed Mubarak Ali Shah Gilani re-established the Pakistan Youth Hostel Association, which is an affiliate of the International Youth Hostel Association. He also formulated and founded the Climbers Club of Pakistan in an aim to establish a very successful program called Character Training Through Adventure. In early 1962, Sheikh Gilani, along with the Sports Control Board of Pakistan, took 23 girls from various colleges throughout Lahore and other areas to the Himalayan mountain range in order to determine which of those 23 would be able to compete on an international level with other mountaineers throughout the world. From those 23, 6 girls were selected to be the first girls to climb over a height of 17,000 feet. And in the fall of 1963, Sheikh Gilani led the Pakistani girls to scale the Mankial Peak at a height of 18,750 feet. This was the highest peak that any female climbers had ever conquered. This was a historical moment for Pakistan and the world. The Character Building Through Adventure program continued, and many years later, the Muslim Scouts of America would send a 12-man expedition to study under the tutelage of Sheikh Gilani and learn and develop strong and confident character and personalities. In 1997, in 1999, in the early 2000s and subsequent years, the Muslim Scouts of America sent many groups of boys who came to Pakistan and explored the Himalayan ranges, the Karakoram, and other areas of Upper Pakistan, in which they learned to develop strong character through adventure. Some of their adventures included hiking, trekking, skiing, fishing, hunting, and outdoor life. The Banatanur International also sent teams of female climbers, hikers, explorers, and mountain trekkers to be taught under the tutelage of Sheikh Gilani's program, the Character Training Through Adventure. Some of them even came along with their families and friends. They were also privileged to visit the Himalayan mountains, in which they established outdoor camps, fishing, cooking, and climbing. They had very successful tours in those regions. We have interviewed Ms. Khadija Salam, who accompanied Sheikh Gilani in taking the Banatanur ladies on tours of the Himalayan ranges like Swat, Naran, Kagan, and visiting Lake Saiful Muluk. They camped out at various places along the river. They enjoyed fishing, a bit of hunting, and exploring. They've also visited many historical sites which the trips before them had visited. This was all in an effort to develop their character, to build their confidence and their personality, and develop them into strong and successful youth, which they are today. The Muslim Scouts of America, along with the Banat Noor International, decided to carry this program on in other countries as well. And therefore today, in the United States of America, Banat Noor and MSA hold annual retreats in which young men and young ladies are able to develop their character through adventurous activities and through outdoor experiences.
The solemn evening of August 15, 1963 marks a very important day in our lives. From Lahore railway station, we were seen off by our anxious but encouraging parents. Next evening, we reached Peshawar, where we did last-minute purchasing, and after hiring a station wagon from Nowshera, we proceeded to Swat. It was an old model station wagon, which cruised at a very leisurely pace, giving us plenty of opportunity to have a good view of the surroundings. Rest of the members of the party comprised all old friends who had done extensive climbing and hiking in the Hindu Kush range. Ma Tallat Khan and I are from the Lahore College for Women, Miss Lubna Azam from Convent of Jesus and Mary School, Miss Shahnaz Khan from the Kinnaid College for Women Lahore, while Miss Rifat Iqbal, our in charge of the team, is a lecturer picked up from the 23 girls who were responsible for a similar expedition. But this time, the task was to create a world record in climbing for our age group, and also we had a plan to climb higher than the batch of girls who are climbing at the same moment the highest peak in the Alps Mont Blanc, 15,782 feet in Switzerland, with the help of 13 mountain guides, 2 helicopters, and a lot of other aids. These aids, however, were beyond our reach. Nevertheless, we had with us plenty of equipment and food and were fired with a strong desire to climb, even at the risk of our lives. After Peshawar, we reached Saidu Sharif, the capital of Swat state, where we had brief halt for tea and coffee. Then we continued our journey for Bahrain, a town 40 miles north to Saidu Sharif. At dawn, we left for Kolali, where we got dressed in mountaineering clothes. There we hired porters for our luggage, leaving surplus articles in the rest house. All the members of the expedition found the experience exciting, as it was a bold and brave attempt to conquer nature. From Kolali, we advanced along the Mankail River and hiked for 3 miles. Then we entered a beautiful valley of Sarai. It was surrounded by thick alpine forests, above which were snowy peaks. There were innumerable silvery streams, waterfalls of many sizes and shapes which feed the rich and fertile vale. We crossed the valley and camped in a beautiful mosque at Budai. Set in a picturesque surroundings, the mosque was a good augury for the God-fearing people. Again next morning we started. It was the beginning of the hazardous journey as we had to climb steep hills. Climbing steep rocky hills and crossing alpine vegetation and jumper forests, we reached Char, a beautiful spot situated at the snout of an old moraine of Mankail Glacier, where we had to set our first base camp for the fulfillment of our mission. With its 5 waterfalls, Char is a beautiful spot, generously bestowed with nature's beauty. From our base, height 10,400 feet, we had to leave the valley potters and had to engage shepherds. Born in the hilly regions, they were rugged and were perfectly aware of climbing technique. These shepherds believed that on top of the mountains and beyond the glaciers, there lived fairies and superhuman beings, and if they encroached upon their peaceful abode, they would have to pay very dearly. It was difficult for us to pursue them, but we were successful, hiring a few hands to continue our journey. Each of our members had sufficient patience, courage, and determination, but we had to face the mountain hazards, and it was a challenge we had to accept. With the help of our toes and fingers, we traversed our sheer rocky drops over the narrow ledges. We climbed over sharp rocky ribs where one slip could have resulted into a fatal plunge into the valley below. Taking short rests and drinking cold water, we were forging ahead. This way, we traversed a height of 14,000 feet where we fixed our high-altitude tents. There were freezing boulder-strewn slopes where dark clouds coupled with strong ice-cold winds started threatening us. It needed all the courage and devotion to face these hazards. None of us was afraid as we had anticipated this before taking up this task. Next morning when we got up, we were greeted by clear sunlight. We felt warm and hearty and sunlight gave us new life. We accepted the bounties of nature with gratitude and filled our lungs with pure ozone. It was an extremely fine morning. We were simply fascinated to behold the grandeur of the landscape around us. There was a vast amphitheater of snow-clad, silvery ramparts around us, and imagine how imposing and magnificent it looked against the morning blue sky at the back and early golden rays of dawn combing the dim misty crown of perpetual snow. At 10 a.m. we left our camp led by our leader. We were all rather tired and our limbs were numb due to the last night's freezing cold. The lower snout of Mankai Glacier was pitted with hidden crevices and loose debris. We at times jumped over or avoided these ice graves and soon made a detour of the lower snout and found our way over a rocky face of a ridge leading up towards perpetual snowfields of Mankail. By 2 p.m., after climbing hazardous faces and hopping over moraine, we hit our Camp 2, situated about 15,600 feet. From Camp 2, we checked that we were properly roped to each other, and here, due to intense glare, we used snow goggles. We started climbing a rocky ridge above snowfields and made a long detour of a nearby summit. And this way, climbing over the steep and risky hard snow slopes, avoiding fissures and avalanches, we reached the base of our last ridge, where we rested. A member of our team, Mahtallat Khan, had developed headache. She was given tincture, aromatic, with strong coffee, and some of us took aspirin. Due to the high altitude, we were feeling great difficulty in breathing, and as at such heights, the quantity of oxygen is usually reduced to 50% of what it is at the sea level. Now we had to climb as well as breathe and inhale the oxygen. It made our throats dry, sight diffused, and senses numb. Yet there was only one thought, and that was to climb the summit. As the last stretch cleared, we reached the summit at 5:15 p.m. It was this moment we were waiting for a long time. Thus establishing a world record in our age group, we were the conquerors of a lofty mountain in our tender teenage. The national spirit in us was aroused as the brave daughters of our land, whose undaunted effort were crowned by the success of conquest. We hoisted our national flag along with the flag of the Climbers Club of Pakistan and buried a document under a marked boulder testifying our conquest. Our return journey was very tiring and dangerous. Evening had already set in. We changed the route in order to descend directly over very smoothly slope of hard snow, which later joined the wild ice of the Mankai Glacier. We had not eaten anything and were feeling weak. Our descending speed was greater. It was also because of the encouragement of Mr. Mubarak Ali Gilani, whose undaunted courage enabled us to keep our failing strength intact. We had many minor accidents. On the way, a member of our party slipped and went straight down, taking the rest of us with her. It was an awful sight, as all the 5 of us were rolling with great speed. We responded to the call of our leader, urging us to stick our ice axes, which we did at once, and soon our speed was cut short and we stopped. We reached our campsite too at 8 o'clock in the night, from where again we started descending with the help of torches. This was a grueling descent during which we were almost lost and suffered severely from nausea, cold and hunger. It was by 11:30 p.m. we reached our Camp 1 and we were greeted by the porters. Thus our heroic adventure came to a successful conclusion.
I was requested to become the president of Climbers Club of Pakistan. I started with as being Secretary General. So people from all over the world start coming for climbing mountain in this country, and I had to entertain them and accommodate them and look after them, you know. my Zawiya where I used to do my zikr and remembrance of Allah, and people used to come as well to seek guidance high up in the mountain. So this is the one mountain which is very like a sheer wall of ice, 19,000 feet, called Mankyal, and here is the Camp 1 from where, people could see and decide about their route. They came up here, as a matter of fact, and the expedition was made. I organized because many people came up. One German girl, Ulrich, and one missionary Englishman, Norman Norris, one Canadian girl who actually was a friend or secretary of an American who later came up, John MacArthur. So all they came and they said that they want to climb this mountain. Could I help them and be there? I said I would. But then the following day the weather went very bad. So I said, you'll have to wait 4 or 5 days till the weather clears up like this. But eventually they didn't agree. They thought that I was trying to stop them from climbing. They just on their own decided to climb. I said it's very difficult, far away from this place. So anyway, they went up. And then I had to come down in the valley and I came down. This is the Mankyal Glacier and this is actually Camp 2. And this is the peak, behind it. And Mankyal, and they took route from here, and from here they went up like this and went up beyond this point. From the Camp 2 of Norman Norris, here the Britisher, and the German girl Ulrich. This picture was taken by John MacArthur, the American, and here's a Pakistani. So they went up. Making the story short, they misjudged. As I told them, warned them, as the peak is very high. They went up, eventually kept on climbing, and night came, and eventually at night they found themselves on the top, and then they had to spend the night there doing physical exercise. Then again they started coming down, and when they were caught in avalanche, and they had to spend the whole day and night, and keep on doing physical fitness, where PT we call, and this girl in between. So then what happened? According to the statement, in the following morning, they started coming down. Before they could start coming down, John MacArthur opened his rope and started going down on his own. And then he vanished from the sight. And that is what happened, that he fell from the peak where up to today he is still lying. I came down to the lower camp and I was very much concerned. So I heard at night, and the following day I heard a woman coming down. There was a maid and a Canadian. She said they hadn't come down for the last 2 days. Something should be done. So I immediately got very much concerned. I called on the phone, which is a very old type, crank phone. You put one piece on your ear, another. So I immediately sent one person on the car to Peshawar, 250 miles, where eventually he was able to get in touch, and President of Pakistan was informed, Air Force was informed, so the emergency was declared, helipads were made, and the helicopters were sent for rescue. This is the newspaper, 21st Pakistan time, 21st September 1966, announcing the Swat Peak conquered, 2 climbers killed. And helicopters reached me where I was. Very difficult, at quite high altitude. These brave Air Force pilots who later became very famous, fighter pilots and chiefs of the Air Force of Pakistan, when they came. So, I myself went up to 18,000 feet in the helicopter till the propellers were not able to lift me. and was looking for the dead body of John MacArthur and the German girl Ulrike and all. Going, this is the peak, and this is where, the accident happened, and from here, John MacArthur, somewhere from here he rolled and fell. We went up here, over the place looking for, we found the dead body of German girl here, and Norman Norris was inside the tent. He had taken some liquor and was unconscious. Anyway, we brought them down, and then I asked him, Norman, what happened? And he told me, I do not know. When we came down and it was overnight we had to stay, and the following morning, I do not know what happened. John MacArthur opened his robe and then he was lost. This is a statement here in Pakistan Time that it says they spent the night in the snowstorm and the next morning Mr. MacArthur opened his robe in sheer desperation and rolled down and was lost. This was the statement, official statement. Then he was in Rawalpindi when I brought the dead body of the girl. He himself can be seen here. You see him here. You see, this is the morning newspaper. Girl's mountaineer's body arrives in city tragedy after peak conquest, And then again here, the news correspondents from all over the world were there, and they asked him. Then he said, how halfway down between the top and the Camp 2, for reason best known to Mr. MacArthur, he disengaged himself from the rope, which was not observed by me as Miss Ulrich was number 2 on the rope. All I heard was a shout and saw Mr. MacArthur was sliding down the snow field and dew, and in the snowfall, we immediately lost sight of him. Now make the story as short, since we don't have too much time. Inquiry, I ordered for the inquiry. Inquiry was held. I ordered myself. Everybody was supposed to be there. Norman Norris vanished from the scene. He was taken away by CIA. After 15 days, we were able to get hold of him. And in an inquiry, he said, no. He said, John MacArthur, he slipped through the loop of the rope because it was loose. That he changed his statement. Why? Because CIA General Potter, who was in the inquiry, and they were also pressing me to express this statement because the widow would not get the full insurance because it was somebody while in the mountain purposely, intentionally open his rope and fall down, then that is considered as suicide.
Banatu Noor means daughters of light. So this is the ladies auxiliary of the Muslims of America, which was founded by Al-Sheikh Jilani and helped run ladies programs during the summer and the winter. It is character building through adventure, through teamwork, through creating an atmosphere that is ideal to raise people up to their highest potential. We started in Islamabad, Pakistan, here in Islamabad, which is the capital of Pakistan. We went up to Murray and then up to Ayubia. Ayubia is about 9,000 feet above sea level. There in Ayubia, we stopped to make sure that all of our belongings were packed and the proper things that we had. Because going so high in the mountains, there's not many places that you can actually stop and shop. So we didn't bring any prepackaged food in terms of dinner or breakfast. The plan was a total self-sufficient and survival expedition. We would actually cook outdoors and different things like that. So we prepared properly. We stayed at the guest house up in Ayubia, and we continued on our journey. El Sheikh Jelani, of course, he had previously taken so many tours and expeditions and trekking and hiking trips up to the upper ranges of the Himalayas. So I really trusted him. I knew he was an experienced mountaineer, and I had no doubt and no question about his expertise in leading, the expedition. So we brought the local chicken from the village, and we would buy our supplies, and we would cook there right in the open. It was an experience because we had to make sure that the wind wouldn't blow out the fire. We had to build up some type of lean-to make sure that when we cooked, it would be properly cooked. I personally love nature. It appealed to me, this type of touring or trekking expedition. And also, the mountain is a place where you can reflect on Allah, the Almighty, on His grandeur and His magnificence, and it's such a beautiful place to be in terms of peacefulness and serenity, and you can contemplate, and it brings you back to knowing the Almighty Creator. During our journey, we continued further from Ayubia. We went to Kulali. That was a village where El Sheikh Jelani took us there. There was a youth hostel that he actually went back in 1956, and we actually slept there.
Same place?
Yes, in the same place. It was very nice. And he told us the story of his trekking journey through the place, and he stayed at the guest house and drank coffee with his team. That was very heartwarming for me to actually experience and go through into the places that El Sheikh Jelani actually went. Also, right across the road, he told us the story of a young boy, Abdul Hadi.
Again in Upper Swat, in the village of Kolalai, it is the house of one of my local murid, those people who honor and respect the member of the Holy Last Messenger. But I'm here to go and say hello to the family because about 20 years ago, more than that, 25 years ago, the father, Siraj, they came and they told me that the son was playing in this place where you see the men standing, there's something. He was playing there. At that time he was about 10 years old, and the whirlwind came and took him away. And that was their only son. To make the story short, I was able to get hold of son. And when he was still under the influence of the change, because the son, 10, 12 years old boy was just talking to me in very rude manner, looking at me with red eyes, and then he was not talking as a boy, he was talking to somebody else and mentioning his name. So I drove that thing out. And this boy grew up, then the father said, please take him away, make him your son, because if he stays here, they will again take him. So I took him away back to Lahore and raised him, sent him to school, he became a very good student. But now he's a very successful builder in Karachi.
We saw how the family lived in the mountains, and they were happy to give us a tour around their property. They live very simply with earthen floors, and they build with the materials that are around them. the simple wood-burning stove for cooking. They made us tea and were very gracious hosts and curious about us, of course, and where we were from. They live self-sufficiently and live off the food that they grow. They grow squash, corn, tomatoes, and grapevines, just to name a few. They also had chickens, goats, and a dairy cow. The water supply was a fresh water stream that ran right beside the home. And they lived within their surroundings, and it was a very enlightening experience.
I applied for this expedition that was going to be taking place in the Himalayas, and I was chosen out of, I think there were maybe 50 people. I was one of the 10 who were chosen, and I was very happy about that. I was excited and very grateful that they chose me. Actually, I was ready to take the chance, and especially going to another country. We reached Nadan at dusk, and so we decided to set up our tents by the Kundai River. It would be easier for us for washing dishes and fishing and everything that we needed to do, so we just camped out right there. It was quite cold. It was nighttime. I remember making tea outside on the fire. The wood was wet and the flame kept on going out, as well as the winds were very strong, so it was difficult to keep the flames ignited. I think I built a shelter around the fire. We had taken some fish with us. We cooked that for the night, and that was also very tricky. I remember me and some of my companions, we slept very close. We snuggled together to keep ourselves warm. The next morning, we were supposed to, go higher up to Lake Sapamuk, so we packed up all of our things. We drove in those open all-wheel drive Jeeps. I remember we were driving up there, and the whole time I was, just clinging to the side, holding onto the handles because I was very nervous. There was a mountain and then a narrow passage, and then it was just down. So we had to be very careful. It was rocky, and I remember we came up to one point and there was a boulder in the middle of the road, and we had to get out, and some of the men who were with us, they actually had to knock the boulder down the mountain. After that, we went up one mountain called Mount Dina. In the beginning, I was, full of adrenaline. I was very motivated, and I was, ready. After 2 to 3 hours of trekking, I had become very exhausted, very tired. It was quite cool outside. The climate is cool, but as you start to get higher up the mountain, the sun becomes very strong. I remember we were getting sunburned, and I started feeling very, dizzy and a little weak at the same time. So all throughout the trail, I almost got to the point where I felt like I wanted to turn around. I think about 4 of us made it to the summit. The rest couldn't make it, so they turned around and went back. One of my companions, she was quite determined to make it. She actually encouraged me the whole time, let's just keep on going, you can do it, you can make it. I remember it was nightfall and we were still climbing. I was feeling nervous about, wildlife, what might come upon us, but it actually taught me discomfort is okay. Just keep on moving. I remember when we reached the summit, I was so happy and I was so proud of myself that I made it to the top, even though I wanted to turn it around so many times. I was very happy that I actually faced my fears and I made it and I kept on going. And at the same time, it built up my confidence so much that I could do such a great thing.
Okay. Then we moved on to Kagan and then Niran. And from Niran we went to Saif al-Muluk, which is a beautiful lake. Saif al-Muluk is a mountainous lake located at the northern end of the Kagan Valley, near the town of Niran. It is well above the tree line and is one of the highest lakes in Pakistan. Everyone was very excited to be there because this is one of the most beautiful places in Pakistan to go and see. We hired a boat to row across the lake to the other side, went up and did a bit of trekking on one of the surrounding peaks of Saif al-Muluk. We trekked across some glaciers. These glaciers actually melt into the lake and feed the lake, which in turn feeds the Kunar River that actually we traveled along to come up to Saif al-Muluk. Saif al-Muluk was definitely one of the most memorable places during the expedition. I would always love to go back because it was simply unforgettable.
Working together and is actually greater than trying to do things on your own, and it built up my confidence to know that I am capable of doing more than I think. There is more in me than I might know, and that if I keep on moving and keep on struggling and keep on pushing myself, then I could reach potential to reach very high standards.
There's so many things that you learn from a touring or a trekking or mountaineering expedition, from leadership skills to teamwork skills to courage. All these things are built up in you as a person because you're going through different situations and circumstances that you have to persevere. You have to lean on other people. That means you have to trust in others with yourself, and you have to be a part of a team to make it a collective success. This type of experience brings you closer to the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It brings you to a place where you can actually contemplate and be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this type of situation. We also did our dhikr and our reading of Holy Quran and tafsir and just delving into the spirit of Islam. Definitely an experience that brought me closer to the oneness of Almighty Allah and different aspects of Islam. Being able to see through nature how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created things for you. He has created beauty for you to reflect upon Him. And this is what El-Sheikh Rani taught us during that expedition as well.
किस्मत में मेरी चैन से जीना लिख दे डूबे न कभी मेरा सफीना लिख दे जन्नत जन्नत भी गवारा है मगर मेरे लिए ऐ कातिबे तकदीर मदीना लिख दे ताजदारे हरम ताजदारे हरम हो निगाहे करम ताजदारे हरम हो निगाहे करम.
So, Mr. Nuruddin Brooks, can you tell us a little bit about your experience and your hiking and trekking trips in Pakistan from 97 onward?
Yes, back in 1997, myself along with a group of friends, we went to, we flew over to Pakistan and we went on a hiking trip, a trekking expedition to Kagan Valley near Naran. It was a complete and total adventure. It was a new experience for all of us, this expedition with Sheikh Jelani. It was very inspirational and it was a very definitive moment in most of our lives to experience an adventure like that and to the character building, the preparation, and just everything that goes along with a hiking trip and adventure. It was such a formative experience for all of us. There was so much opportunity to learn from packing the Jeep for the expedition, from working with our fellow scouts, and just the whole experience. This was the first that I had an opportunity to travel, period, let alone outside of the United States, but to be able to hike in the foothills of the Himalayas, under this expedition headed by Sheikh Jelani, it was a total educational experience, from preparing for the treks to keeping ourselves healthy, adapting to the climate. It was a complete experience. Has benefited me, my entire life up till today. We took our provisions with us. We packed, we prepared, we took our cooking supplies, we had our tents. As we hiked along and as we trekked along, we would set up our camp at night. We would pitch our tents, start our fires, make our tea, take our biscuits and dates and whatnot. We did as much as possible on our own. But primarily to teach us how to navigate through a trek. We had assistance and help along the way. It was self-sufficiency, it was looking after each other, looking after yourself to develop that sense of responsibility.
So was it genuine?
This clip brings back very, very happy memories. When we were in the vehicle and driving, we would always be laughing or joke with each other. And there was a song we would all sing. It was just an amazing experience, an experience that you just don't get an experience like that. I remember how old was I? 18, 19 years old at the time. And you think about most 18, 19-year-old young African-American or Muslim males in America and what they will be up to at that age. And I would say 98% chance that none of them will be up to doing what we were doing. It was also like a history lesson because Shazi would sit us down and give us information about the area. So every morning we would get up and prepare to hike more, and we would hike more with that added information, that added layer of information or history on the area. It was a very exciting trip. We would hike for hours. I would say 3 to 4 hours in some cases, and take break after. We would laugh and joke with each other in between hiking trips. We took notes. We took voice notes and journals. We kept journals of some of the things that we were able to see and experience while we were hiking, and the lessons that we were able to take in and keep with us. It made us, it molded us, really helped mature us and make us into different men. It put us on a path that, like I said, most 19 and 20 and 21-year-old, Muslim or African American males would never have been placed on that kind of path of maturity, and we've never been the same since. It's amazing that would come from something you would think of like a hiking trip, just experiencing nature and experiencing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. There was an incident one time where we took off in the morning without eating breakfast, and I remember a number of us were inquiring about breakfast. It was really funny, but we were doing it real quiet amongst each other, and all of a sudden a guy came up and they flagged us down, and all of a sudden this guy gave us walnuts and honey and dried fruit out of nowhere. It was beautiful, and on people's mind is food. And we got flagged down by a total stranger, and he started giving us food.
That's just begun. In the bright blue sky, in the birds that fly, in the moon and the stars, as they brighten the night, in the bright blue, in the bright blue, in the bright blue sky, in the birds that fly, in the moon and the stars, brighten the night. Hold my hand.
He woke us up at Tahajjud, got us up. He said, look, you will hike. And he went into the Climbers Club of Pakistan and how long it took. He said, when I was the chief of the Climbers Club, we completed this 2 hours. That was from Kazan to Naran. He said, you carry 20-pound backpacks, you leave immediately after Salat al-Fajr. He gave us all of the instructions at Tahajjud, 4 a.m. And then we set off on foot, but we were, our group was physically in shape, but we had no idea that due to, other, like the altitude, you understand, how the air became thinner. We had no idea about what pace to keep. We had no idea about the inclines and the declines, the roads, the contour, and I understood more about what it entailed. And I told the group, I said that, look, we're going to have to start off on a light pace. Y'all might not like it, we're going to have to start a light jog. We're going to have to take a jog for at least 20, and we'll stop periodically and do brisk walking. So we will jog and then we'll do brisk walking. Salahuddin and Rashid kept the pace all the way through. And I set my watch to go off at, 15 minutes or 20 minutes, before our deadline, so that I knew, okay, look, at the 10-minute mark, we gotta go. There's no ifs, ands, and buts, two ways about it, and the momentum and the desire, the zeal and whatnot to finish a push. And that was one of the most profound memories of that trip, was by hook or by crook, by any means necessary, to find a way to make it. And we did it.
We started our hike along the roads in Ayubia, and we would take trails through the woods, hiking through the mountains. It was Muhammad Adam, myself, Sayyid Nur Hussein Shah, Muhammad Saeed, Hassan, and Muhammad Ahmed Abdul Rauf. We would walk along the trails, and we could look along the sides of the mountain, and there was no rail. The trails weren't really marked. It was an area where the locals were very familiar with where they were going, but for people like myself, who was new to the area, it was a very, very wild adventure, to say the least. We were with Sayyid Nur Hussein Shah. At that time, he was approximately 6 years old, maybe, and all I could remember was that he was fearless. He would walk through the mountains. I would try to hold on to him, and he would want to go on his own. He didn't care that it was a cliff, that there was an edge. He would just walk. And I remember as we were walking, we could see the mountain was in such a way that you could see another road where cars were. The cars were driving, but it was actually the opposite side of the mountain. We came out of a trail, and as soon as we came out of the trail, we met our Murshid, Sheikh Sayyid Mubarak Ali Shah Jalani. He was sitting there waiting for us. We purchased some corn and fed the monkeys, and I remember that as Sheikh Jalani was feeding the monkeys, they got a little bit antsy and wanted the food a little quicker, and Nur Hussein Shah would fend them off so that they wouldn't be too aggressive. Our elevation was so high up that you could see the tops of the trees looking down on them, and you couldn't see the bottom. You couldn't see the bottom of the mountain. You would just be looking over, and it was so beautiful. I remember that it was so much different than hiking Bear Mountain. The terrain was much more difficult. The area, the scenery was just more vibrant. We would trek through the mountain. We would reach a point where there was no trail, so we would come out to the road and walk a little and then go back inside. We had a good experience of learning through adventure. We learned more than just how to walk through a difficult terrain, but it's symbolic in a way that it shaped the way that we walk through life. Everything is not always easy. It's not always going to be easy, but when you're hiking along, you see the trail or whatever it is you're walking upon, and you just have to adjust to it. You just have to keep forging on and take the difficult with the ease, and just be very thankful, be very grateful, and care for those who are walking along with you. In some instances, you may need to carry them. In other instances, they may need to carry you.
किस्मत में मेरी चैन से जीना लिख दे, डूबे न कभी मेरा सफीना लिख दे। जन्नत भी गवारा है मगर मेरे लिए ऐ कातिबे तकदीर मदीना लिख दे। ताजदारे हरम ताजदारे हरम हो निगाहे करम, ताजदारे हरम हो निगाहे करम। हम गरीबों के दिल भी संवर जाएंगे, हम ये बेकसां क्या कहेगा जहां, हम ये बेकसां क्या कहेगा जहां। आपके दर से खाली अगर जाएंगे, ताजदारे हरम ताजदारे हरम।